Hey guys, before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our level 3 courses. When I tried to sit down and do some big swanky radio advert and it's just not us. So I'm just going to chat about it for a minute. So our level 3 training is the same price as some other courses out there where you just get 5 days and you are out the door, do your coursework on your own. Our course is for the same price is 10 days of training. So for our May cohort, that's 5 days. And then we have a bit of a month off to just let that settle. We come back for a weekend, maybe do a bit of camping. Then we have a bit more time off and then we come back for another weekend. With the September group, we do 5 Mondays starting in September. Then we have a bit of a break. Then we come back in the new year and do another 5. So we're really focusing on building community as we go. We didn't really want to do that conveyor belt thing. We could be doing, a level 3 course every school holiday, banging them out, off you go. But we don't want to do that. We do Zoom calls throughout the year. We do loads of cohort, community building sessions and stuff to help people with what they're doing. And that means that we want to do it well rather than doing lots of it. So we're trying to help people do that. And we're also really big on this community aspect. And we found that people not only find the course easier to do in terms of workload, but also easier to do emotionally when they do it with somebody they already know. So to try and encourage that, we're doing a train together kind of offer. So if you and someone else sign up to do the course with us together, we'll give you some money off your course because we found that the success rate is much higher. People are much happier while they're doing the course, and it makes our life easier as tutors because, happy students, motivated students, we're all kind of getting on together. So if you want to be part of a community rather than just being put through a conveyor belt, then have a look at our website. It goes to myforestschooltraining.co.uk. That'll take you to the Children of Forest website, and you can go from there, get your application in, and join our communities. So on with the podcast.
I'm Wem.
And I'm Lewis.
This is the Forest School Podcast.
Let's go!
Hey, lovely people, every waffle merchants. We are back. We are back from the conference. Got back last week. Unfortunately, Wem has come down with a bit of a cough, bit of a flu-y thing, which means that we were going to do this recording together, but you are stuck with just me as a bit of an audio guide as we go through the conference. It was a great conference, great to see loads of people, great to hear loads of talks. We were in a big old windy marquee thing for some of the talks, so apologies, some of the recording on the longer speeches isn't great and there's a little bit of flapping of a tent, but we're not the highest quality podcast around anyway, so you get what you pay for. This first bit you're going to hear is us just sat in our seats as people sort of mill into the conference, into the speaker's tent, and it's just Wem and I chatting. It took us 6.5 hours of driving to get there, so this is the morning after. We arrived in the dark. Great atmosphere though, everybody's super welcoming. It just meant you couldn't see who anybody was until you got within about 3 foot of them. So there's all these conversations I had with people, and I apologise if you're one of these people that I talked to for a long time. I might not have known who you are for the entire conversation, but also just say that this is going to be part 1. We're going to have a second part of the conference recordings. We've got a few more bits. Wem and I are going to do another song war, so we're both going to write a song about something that happened or an idea we had at conference, and also we've got a recording of the neurodiversity and forest school panel, which we really want to share with everybody, and we didn't want it to get lost in this quite big recording, so we're going to break it up. There's quite a lot here to get your teeth into, and then in a week or so there'll be another recording that you can get your teeth into as well, so enjoy. Here they all come, the procession of people.
The delegates enter the conference marquee.
Okay, there's not as many good hats this year.
I've seen a couple of good hats.
Nice. I can see a witchy hat.
A felted witchy hat. Lots of hats that look like people who were wearing them had made them, which I'm always impressed by.
Although, to be fair, when we got here it was raining. People are less likely to wear their
hats
felted,
might have got soggy.
things.
Hey. the fashions of forest school. Oh my God, I've got a little...
Is it like a little meme that's like
Yeah.
steal their look?
Yeah, and also, you know, the kind of how to dress your child for forest school memes about, you know, the layers
the
and
layers.
photo.
Yeah.
You could do funny ones for how to dress your forest school leader.
Oh, I mean, I think that needs to be in the conference booklet next year, next to the
does.
what to bring.
Yeah. Or one of those dolls that, it's before your time, but back in my day,
A paper doll.
paper doll with the little foldy bits so you can dress them with different clothes. Yeah.
I've seen them in museums. Yes. Strong. It is filling up.
The tower of strength within. Oh, burden slips from my shoulders. All anxiety slips from my mind. Oh, burden slips from my shoulders. All anxiety slips from my mind. I'll let every shackle be loosened. I'll let every shackle be loose. I'll let every shackle be loosened. I'll let every shackle be loose. I'll let every shackle be loosened. I'll let every shackle be loose. I'll let every shackle be loosened. I'll let every shackle be loose. Okay, so now this bit, you guys over there, can you be towers of strength? So you're going to go, I am the tower of strength within and without. I am a tower of strength within. Maybe we can have a few more people doing that. I am a tower of strength within and without. I am a tower of strength within. Keep going. I am a tower of strength within and without. I am a tower of strength within. You're going to do. I am a tower of strength slip from my shoulders. All anxiety slip from my mind. All burden slip from my shoulders. All anxiety slips from my mind. All burden slip from my shoulders. All anxiety slips from my mind. All burden slip from my shoulders. All anxiety within from my mind. I am a tower of strength within and without. I am a tower of strength within from my mind. I am a tower of strength within and without. I am a tower of strength within from my mind. I am a tower of strength within from my shoulders. Tower of strength within from my mind. Tower of strength within from my shoulders. Every shackle be loose. Very good. So yeah, obviously then you can sing it.
There you go, listeners. That was a bit of a song that was recorded on the Saturday evening around a campfire. You can probably hear a bit of crackling going on. I've recorded a couple of songs actually, so I've sort of dotted them through. The next thing you're about to hear is a speech by Lucy Jones, who's an author who came in. She's somebody who wrote the book Losing Eden, and she talked quite a lot about, you know, collecting all the studies and sort of bringing all the evidence together for people like us who are on the ground, literally and metaphorically, to use in sort of advocating for our work. This is one of the ones that I've said, slightly flappy noise, hopefully it's tolerable. Yeah, enjoy.
Can you hear me at the back?
Yeah.
Following Tim, that's quite a nice. Thank you, Tim. That's great. It's such a privilege to be here. I think what you guys do is one of the most important things in our society. I think you're key workers, and hopefully I'm going to explain why. I'm a journalist, a researcher and a writer, which means I'm very good at sitting on my own in a room. So if I'm not talking loud enough, just raise your hands. So I've spent the last decade or so researching the relationship between contact and connection with the natural world and human health and well-being, particularly psychological health, for my books, Losing Eden and The Nature Seed. And today I want to spend some of the time sharing with you some of the most compelling and exciting evidence for why we need a relationship with nature for public health and individual health, and how that links to forest school, and why it makes what you do so valuable. I want to suggest that regular sessions in a natural setting within the framework of forest school and a relationship with nature is not a luxury. I will argue that it's essential for the health and well-being of the individual and for our very in need of healing society. I got into this area about 10-12 years ago. I was living in London. I was quite highly stressed. I was in my mid-20s. I was working as a journalist in a national paper, barely seeing daylight, no contact or connection with nature. And I was self-medicating with alcohol and substances. I was suffering from depression or anxiety. And I went into recovery, and I found 4 things really helped me. The first, really quite straightforward: psychotherapy, psychiatry, and support groups with my friends and family. But the 4th thing was a bit more mysterious, and that's what set me on my journey. So I knew that kind of running could boost your mood and give you endorphins. So I started going running on Walthamstow Marshes, which is a beautiful space. Do any of you know it? Yeah. It's just amazing. I'd kind of go there for a run, but I'd end up just walking and watching the kestrels in the sky and looking at the kind of yellow buttons of tansy on the river and seeing trees and plants and the rest of nature for the first time. No doctors had prescribed this experience. No one had suggested it. This was kind of 10-12 years ago, before we were seeing these nature-based interventions and social prescribing. But what I found was that I'd go back to my flat and feel relief in some way, kind of relief from the very negative self-critical thoughts I was experiencing, and kind of calm in a way that I hadn't felt before. And as a science journalist at the time, I was immediately intrigued in what was happening in my brain, what was happening to my body, what was happening to my limbic system, my hormones, what was going on. How could this be so powerful and I didn't know anything about it? I was fortunate that I had experiences as a child in the natural world, and at that point in my mid-20s I was connecting with that sense of joy and wonder that had already been given to me. I was a kid who just wanted to collect ladybirds all the time and stare at aphids and listen to crickets, and that was the best parts of my childhood. So this experience kind of just set me thinking about what was actually happening, what was kind of going on in the body and the brain. I kind of knew that nature is in some way good for you. I'd go to the park sometimes. I might go to the seaside for a holiday. I had that kind of vague idea. But what I found absolutely blew my mind. And I know that you guys know this and you work in this area. But what I want to do today is kind of present some of the scientific evidence in a way that I hope might be kind of useful and helpful, particularly for talking to head teachers, policymakers, investors, using that kind of evidence base that people just can't argue with within our kind of scientific framework. And I want to talk a little bit more about kind of the other side, not just the science, because I love science. Science is great, but there's a lot of things about our relationship with nature that you can't measure in a lab. And one of the things that happened to me on Walthamstow Marshes was the beginning of a relationship and a sense of being in communion with a wider matrix of beings and finding community with the rest of nature. And I think that's a really important part of what you guys do as well. So I started to research it, and luckily for me, loads of scientists in multiple disciplines across the world, in every continent, have been trying to drill down into this relationship between contact with nature and our health and well-being. Environmental psychologists, public health scientists, people who study neuroscience, to people who study the limbic system. There's this enormous wealth of evidence now, and much of it is very strong and very robust and very rigorous. So you already know, I'm sure, the kind of more broad stroke evidence for why children need more contact with the rest of nature. We know studies show us that creative play is higher in natural settings, that outdoor learning boosts children's social and psychological growth, that contact with the natural world, connection with the natural world is correlated with, as children, is correlated with fewer depressive symptoms as adults, and that vulnerable and disadvantaged children may need it more than most. There's a study by, it's from the US, which showed that the most vulnerable children have experienced the most powerful effects from contact with nearby nature. It seems to buffer their life stresses. So we know that forest law and time in nature can build resilience, confidence, creativity, and I'm sure you've all seen that. And it makes sense. The natural world is our oldest playground. It was our playground for 99% of our evolutionary history. We evolved exploring the outdoors. That's where our brains evolved, where our bodies evolved. But how exactly do these experiences, this environment, actually affect our health and well-being? So I want to kind of take you on a bit of a journey getting under the nuts and bolts of what happened. So about 6 years ago, I moved out of London into a town in the British countryside in Hampshire, and I had a garden for the first time in my adult life. I also had a baby, my first child, and we spent a lot of time in the garden, and I've noticed two things. One, she would want to eat the soil, just naturally. She just wanted to put it in her mouth. And two, after being in the garden, digging around in the soil, planting seeds, I, who was experiencing postnatal depression at the time, felt better. And it got me thinking about what was going on in that space. And I was doing some reading online, and I saw in a kind of parenting Facebook group, someone said, exposure to soil bacteria, Mycobacterium vaccae, is like a natural antidepressant, true or woo. And my initial thought was woo. Or, at this point I was very kind of, of course I still am, but anthropocentric and naive. Anyway, started looking into it. There were lots of comments underneath of people saying, no, it's like there's actually some interesting evidence. And someone had said in the 18th century, soil was thought to have a curative effect on the mentally ill. So I thought, I'm going to have to dig into this. And I started, I'll have to keep that for the next one. So I interviewed some of the scientists, the neuroscientists who have been studying this particular soil bacteria, M. vaccae, for quite a long time, and it was amazing. So a chance finding in 2004 found that vaccy that was administered to cancer patients at the Marsden, found that it didn't extend their life, but it did seem to make them happier and boost their well-being. And this guy called Christopher Lowry, particularly who studied this area, tested the theory and has been, rigorously studying this wonderful bacteria, and found that yes, there is a connection, and M-vaccy can increase stress resilience in the brain. So this particular bacteria is being tested as a kind of way of treating people with PTSD. I think for our purposes, a question that Christopher Lowry suggested is what's relevant to us. Shouldn't we be letting all children play more in the dirt? Should we be playing more in the dirt? So that kind of gave me a bit of a sense of what was happening in that garden. Another guy called Graham Brooke, who developed this idea called the old friends hypothesis, which is the idea that we evolved with these bacteria outside, our old friends. Often we think of bacteria as being something we want to get rid of, but of course that's not the case. They're protective, we need them, they're half of us. He had also found, studying, it's really interesting, it's a bit of an aside, but looking at the Amish and the Hutterites and children in those groups in the States. So the Amish farm, still in a very traditional way, children are allowed to run around in and out of barns, they're living alongside the animals with more freedom. The Hutterites have a much more mechanical, modern way of farming. They're in air-conditioned tractors, lots more machinery, the kids are not running in and out of the barns. And the Amish have lower levels of inflammation, asthma, susceptibility to psychiatric diseases, and his theory is that it's because of this exposure to these old friends, which is protective in some way. I have a beautiful rose bush in my garden, and I love looking at the droplets of rain when it rains on the petals. And I started to notice in this new experience of being in the garden with a child, how much I love the smell of the earth after it rained. It kind of reminded me of being a kid, being on a playground and just smelling that earthy smell. And I started to wonder about this smell and what it was. I was thinking about the sense of nature and how it might be affecting us. And this led me to the incredible science of petrichor. I'm sure this is an audience. Often I'll say to people, do you know what petrichor means? And most people don't. I bet loads of you do. Yeah. So it's the name for the smell of the earth after it's rained. That kind of really earthy, like metallic, almost ferric smell. And it's caused by, the main compound in it is a compound called geosmin. And that's what gives it that kind of delicious smell. Anyway, it turns out humans are acutely sensitive and can detect low concentrations at 5 parts per trillion, which is amazing. I mean, obviously we evolved needing irrigated landscapes for our survival, so it makes sense that that smell would be something for us. Anyway, a study of brain activity from South Korea found that when people smell that compound particularly, it activates areas of the brain associated with calmness and relaxation. Now we all know that kids kind of love muddy puddles and jumping in the rain, but I know that sometimes bad weather can be a barrier or an obstacle for some kids or some families. So I think the science of petrichor, knowing that if you just take a moment to smell it and smell the earth, it could be actually calming down your brain. It's quite a good one to know about. The next area I wanted to talk to you about is awe, the science of awe. So I've got 3 kids, 6 and under, and as challenging as becoming a mother has been in some ways, I have an abundance of awe and wonder through their experiences. Yesterday, we went into the woods with my father-in-law, he's in his 70s, and he took us looking for mushrooms, and we found these incredible penny buns, absolutely massive, and my 6-year-old was just in awe of how big they were, how beautiful they were, and we took one home, we cooked it, and we had it for lunch, and it was just wonderful. So I want to talk to you a bit about awe and the idea of it being a luxury, and I'm going to argue that it's not a luxury, and it's something that children require and are essential, and it's something that in the forest school framework and in contact with the natural world, this is where we can get an abundance of awe and wonder. So many of our experiences of awe and wonder in our modern world still come from the natural world, despite our disconnection. It doesn't have to be the Grand Canyon or a waterfall. For me, it's often finding mushrooms in the woods or looking at moss through my loupe, which is a tiny little magnifying glass, exactly. So I spend quite a lot of time pushing crabs around and with a little magnifying glass looking at moss on walls, and people often ask me if I'm okay. Anyway, we all say, I'm just looking at a worm moving, I'm fine. We all know that feeling awed feels nice. But did you know that it actually has measurable effects on our health, on our bodies? So a guy called Dasha Keltner, who's been studying the science of awe for decades now, has shown repeatedly that experiencing awe has a calming effect on our physiology. Awe is nature and awe, not just a luxury, not just nice. So particularly psychologists at the University of Toronto found that awe was the only emotion that predicted reduced levels of, stay with me, cytokines, which are biomarkers which are associated with disease and depression. So awe was the one emotion which seemed to have this measurable physical effect on the body. Awe may also affect how we treat other people. Dasha Keltner's lab showed 2 groups of participants, different videos. One was a kind of awe-inspiring scene of the natural world, and one was a comedy scene. They were then told they'd won a cash prize, and the awed group were more likely to share their winnings. And this study has kind of been repeated again and again. One of them, I think one of the research dropped a load of pens, and the people who were awed were more likely to pick up the pens. And going a bit deeper into that, it seems that awe reduces activity in the default mode network, which is an area of the brain associated with sense of self. This makes me think of a quote that Rachel Carson, who wrote Silent Spring, said. She said, and I haven't got this written down, but I'll try and remember it. The more we experience awe and wonder, I'm probably butchering it, but it's something like this. The more we experience awe and wonder, the less our appetite for destruction. And I think that says quite a lot to our present moment, and speaks to the idea that the more children have this experience to be awed and feel wonder at their living world, the more they will care for it. Okay. So one of my favourite areas of the research is to do with fractal shapes. Some of you might know what fractal shapes are. Lots of people do. Okay, so the reason I like this and I like talking about this is because obviously, like in a dream world, we want all children to be able to play in woods and forested areas and have these biodiverse and ecologically rich areas to play and explore. But that's just not the case for a lot of children. And fractal shapes are everywhere in nature. And once you get your eye in, you can will see them. They're like a spray of a weed coming out of a pavement is a fractal shape. Let me explain what they are before going further. So, fractal shapes are essentially the same shape, self-repeating, and you get them across kind of nature's geometry in ferns, leaves, seashells, fractal broccoli, waves. It's just part of the kind of geometry of our world. So if you imagine a kind of a plant, a pavement plant, you have a kind of the shape of the leaf, and then it gets bigger and bigger as you go through. Anyway, why is this important? I found, again, pushing my pram around town, I would often just key in to these fractal shapes and just want to be staring at them. It could be cow parsley, it could be the dandelion leaves. Just wanted to be looking at them, seemed to have a nice effect. And a guy called Richard Taylor at the University of Oregon has been studying human brain activity and fractal shapes for a number of years. And he found that the particular fractal shapes found in the natural world, so that is between 1.3 and 1.5, compared with fractal shapes in, for example, a Jackson Pollock painting or something like that. Natural world too, of course, but so with me. Provokes activity in the brain associated with calmness and relaxation. So he has this beautiful phrase which is physiological resonance. This idea that we are kind of hardwired to respond to the shapes and the geometry of the natural world. And this is where it gets really cool. It turns out the eye, our human eye, is fractal in nature. So the theory is that our eyes kind of lock in with the fractal shapes. And that's something that anyone can find anywhere. Now I want to talk about an area which I think is really important for the time that we're in now. It's about stress. And we often think about kind of adults being stressed, and stress being an issue for adults, but I think, as we've all seen in the last few years, kids are experiencing stress, and it's a kind of horrible hallmark and epidemic in our society. Stress-related illnesses and diseases are on the rise, and we are not very good at dealing with it. So there's a canal in Hampshire that I love walking down. It's an abandoned canal. About this time of year, it's filled with spindle trees, and in the spring it's filled with wild garlic. It's just incredibly beautiful. And there's a bench where we often sit and we'll eat a sandwich next to the water. And I find that whenever I sit there, I just feel so calm and tranquil, just looking at the water and the ducks, watching the catkins kind of move in the breeze, listening to bird song. We just go there and we're sitting at the sun. It's just lovely and blissful. And afterwards, I always feel kind of restored and relaxed. And I think the scientific research on our nervous systems and stress and natural environments can explain a bit about what's happening to me in that moment, and I'm sure it's an experience that you experience as well. So we know that we recover from stress quickly and more completely in a natural environment compared to a built environment. And it looks like the reason for this is because when we are in the natural world, our parasympathetic nervous system is more likely to be activated. So the parasympathetic nervous system is the one involved in rest and digest, feelings of calm and contentment and safety. The sympathetic nervous system is the one that's really helpful if we need to run away or we're really feeling stressed. It's fight and flight, it's adrenaline. We need both, but we need both in balance. And what is happening at the moment in modern life is that many of us have this one, the fight or flight, activated for long periods of time, and that can lead to illness, disease, depression, and so on. And so what we need is a kind of equilibrium. And the evidence shows that when we're in the natural world, we can restore this more calm and relaxed feeling. And there's some amazing research which found that even under anaesthetic, people who have played birdsong produce fewer stress chemicals, fewer biomarkers of stress. So it's not just that we're kind of, if you're someone who loves birds, and you go out there and you're listening to birdsong, you hear it, and there's something deeper going on. So we need a balanced nervous system. Our children need that experience to recover from the stresses of life. The natural world is not a luxury. So these are just a few of the myriad ways science is showing how a relationship with nature can affect our health and our well-being. But there is, of course, a big problem. We have never been so disconnected from the natural world. I think we have never been so enclosed. Our children have never been so estranged and willfully alienated from their natural environment. We're also at the most ecologically destructive time of human history. One of the most interesting people I interviewed for my book, Losing Eden, was a guy called John Scull, who is an ecotherapist in Vancouver. And he said something which always has stayed with me. He said, by the time you're 18 years old, you spent 12,000 hours in a classroom, separated from nature, and that's what it takes to create an industrial society. And as we all know, fewer than 1 in 10 children play in wild areas. So when I was a couple of years into my research, I was living in London still, and I was living in a flat with no access to outdoor space, about 10-15 minute walk from a park. But we had a beautiful pear tree outside our bedroom window. It was stunning. In the spring, it would glow green like kryptonite. In the summer, these kind of curds of creamy blossom would appear, and it would blow up the pears. And I'd watch as the pears dropped, and then the tree would get brittle for winter before the buds would bud again. And I'd be looking out for this kind of creaking and new life coming. And this was in my early sobriety and recovery, and it was a really important symbol for me of constancy and change. I grew to rely on it. Scaffolding went up, the neighbours were doing some work, and the tree was blocked from view. I became very tense, very frustrated. I said passive-aggressive texts to my neighbours. I snapped at my then boyfriend, and it kind of freaked me out what was happening. But it made me realise the extent of my psychological need for the rest of nature. It would have been weird if we'd been warned, oh, the tree's going to be covered, you're going to see it, for psychological reasons. I could have expected to have been warned if it was being loud or dust or something like that. But we're not at that point yet where we really realise how important these things are. Anyway, this got me thinking more about how this kind of estrangement and this eco-alienation is affecting us and children. And then, of course, once you realise that then you see you're living in a world of wounds, and it's very, very depressing. And you see kind of deep inequality in access and connection to restorative natural environments. And this is a kind of flip side of looking at this area. I think we can look at all the positive research, but then and you guys are the people who are working against this. Researchers are proving just how harmful it is to have children, people, us divorced from the natural world. Scientific studies are not usually described as beautiful, but this one was, and I think they're right. A study by a guy called Richard Mitchell from the University of Glasgow found that access to the natural world could reduce the health gap between rich and poor. And this research has been repeated again and again in European countries. It can reduce socio-economic inequality in mental well-being. As we know, affluent areas tend to have more quality green space and be greener and leafier. I hate that phrase, but it's all over the literature. So when we think about nature as a luxury, or contact with nature as being just for kind of the affluent, we're really doing our society a disservice and missing out on this possibility to reduce the global gaps in inequality that we have. So clearly, systemic and structural change is needed, and nature is not a luxury. But here is the good news. You are doing it. You've been doing it for 30 years. And we have a critical chance and opportunity to put the natural world at the centre of childhood experience. And what I think the scientific evidence can do, and how I hope it will be useful, I kind of wrote Lucy Heaton, it's really a synthesis of evidence, kind of like just to be useful for people, is to be able to say nature connection is as important for children and adults as sleep or a good diet. It's not an add-on, it's not a luxury. And all parents and all head teachers and policymakers, we all want children and society to have good public health and well-being. And now we have that type of rigorous...
Okay, apology time. People will have seen me at the conference having a slightly manic moment. I had a nightmare in terms of batteries and battery packs and cables and things. That's basically all I managed to record. It's most of Lucy's speech, but possibly not all of it, before my recorder just went boo and shut down, and I had to run around like a headless chicken trying to find batteries and chargers and wires and things. But thankfully, we did manage to get enough that we caught Lucy afterwards. I managed to have a little chat with her personally. So here's that chat. Go. Thank you. That was cracking. To hear all about your work.
A real pleasure, a real privilege. It's amazing to be here, and I wish I could stay all weekend, but yeah, it was really nice.
Is this the first lot of exclusively forest school leaders you've talked to about your work?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, like I visited forest schools when I was researching, and I've interviewed on the phone people involved in forest school, but this is the first, being in I've kind of talked to outdoor educators a bit, but this has been the first kind of being in a room with lots of people really doing it. So that's been, really good.
We wanted to ask, because obviously your work's been about like synthesizing lots of bits of research, and we were sat at the back and we were wondering, I can't remember what the word is. If you had like unlimited budget and importantly, no ethical concerns, right? You can do whatever you want. What's the bit of research that hasn't been done? We're like, there's a hole here, and if I've got endless money, just want to get that one.
What an amazing question. I've never been asked that, and that is such a good question.
Because one of the issues always with this stuff is a lot of it becomes anecdotal, doesn't it? And so you always end up in a space where you couldn't ever set up an experiment where you're like, I'm going to intentionally deprive person of X, but like, if we could be real.
That's the finding, somehow magically.
I feel like you're kind of putting me on the spot here, and I'm such a perfectionist that I wouldn't want to give my ultimate answer, because this is a big question.
Maybe it's not the one, maybe it's like a few.
A1.
I think that one of the interesting areas at the moment, which could do with more research, is like biodiversity, and so like comparing, for example, like a green space, a simple green space which is just like grass, with like a really diverse wood and all the different things in life that's going on there. I feel like if there was a way to kind of simply compare the two, that would be good. What else? I'm really interested in like maternal and like postnatal well-being and health. Anthony, you can't really experiment on that.
No.
Yeah.
So I think that would be quite interesting.
Yeah, that would be
But
amazing.
actually, do you know what? No, I'm going to say I would want to be able to test more of the microorganisms like the bacteria and vaci that I talked about. So you can't obviously just give people soil to eat. But I think if
You can in this world. There's no ethical concerns.
yeah.
Just feed
But
people soil
yeah.
and see what happens.
In this, I would want to like see ingesting that exposure, more about that exposure, because what we're. So I think we think we're like these adamantine, sealed off beings, but we're a lot more permeable and affected by the diversity of life around us. So
That feels like it would tie in with that thing about how does grass affect, a really diverse ecosystem. Like the same bacteria even. What have you done this morning?
I've just done tree platforms and ladders. It was awesome. It was 2 hours of just playing with lots of bits of wood, which was just amazing.
That does sound joyful.
Very joyful, very playful. Lots, new knots learnt, old knots practiced. Fun times. Balancing, playing, hanging upside down.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was good. In the sun.
In the
So
sun.
sunny.
It's so different to last year when it was peeing it down.
Incredible.
And it was like, endure. And this is like, oh, cool, sit in the grass.
Yeah. I
Do
know.
as you please.
Eat some cake. What have you just done?
Well, I was signed up to do the MovNat workshop, but the person who was going to do the MovNat workshop has been injured.
Oh no.
I'm hoping not through MovNat,
MovNat.
but instead, I was with a chap called Richard, and we were doing like natural movement and like using there's a thing now called like rope flow, which is when you use
I
like
saw
it's like
you
a big
twirling
heavy
lots
rope.
of rope.
Oh, I was twirling ropes around. It's all about movements coming from your spine and how we do, when we shouldn't be linear and all this stuff, and like it was really cool. We're definitely going to talk to Richard, and he's up for doing an episode on his own, which will be
Amazing.
great. But like,
So it wasn't actually MovNat what you were doing?
no, it was
was-
a different thing when he was like, this is sort of where my PhD and my interest is. Can't do the MovNat thing, but this is like MovNat adjacent. And it was really, the only thing I can liken it to is like juggling. In that left brain, right brain thing where like you can't think about it because if you go, oh, I've got it, and then your brain engages with something about like where's your hand going or like which direction, and then it whips you in the back of the head. But yeah, it was very interesting.
Yep.
Sort of flow. I feel like there's a lot of stuff to do, and I feel like a lot of stuff to bring back to our learners because lots of it was like doing figure eights around yourself, and he was like, you might have some kids that want to like do this and be ninjas, and I was like, you fucking bet. I know every kid wants to be a ninja at some point, but I'd never thought to do it with. So one of the things that I realised was different was that when kids do it, they do it with sticks, and there's more wrist rotation required in that, whereas the rope you can do a much simpler movement and the rope still draws the same path.
Yeah.
Obviously there's different risk assessment included with using ropes, but I think I am going to cut some lengths of rope and have a go in the woods. And then we were talking about, and I wonder if this resonates with you, so one of the things Richard is doing, and I'm sure he'll talk about this more, he was saying he wants to make forest school what PE lessons are.
Yeah.
So not kicking a ball, stopping a ball, linear motion, all this stuff. He said PE lessons should be all this movement, this kind of natural flow movement. And so he was saying like, and then I was thinking about all the movements, and I was thinking, I don't know anyone that regulates with linear movement. It's flow, it's the whole body, like circles from your spine, all of this stuff, like crawling, loading up and spinning and all of those things.
Rocking.
All of those things are regulating in a way that like stopping a ball with your foot and passing it back is not, I don't know people that regulate that way, or like swinging a racket to hit a tennis ball. Well, I suppose that's different because that is kind of rotational.
And it's also, there's something about maybe like exerting force on things, which is a different type of physical play.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Yeah.
I'm down with that.
My brain's gone to sleep a little bit. So
PE
just did
lesson,
chocolate cake.
making PE playful
Yes,
and regulating,
definitely.
and talking about the science of that whilst you're doing it, I think would be amazing. What are you going to do now? I feel like I want to walk around the little marketplace.
Let's go walk around the market.
And
Let's
have a
do
little look.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
See you in a minute. Hey again, listeners. So the next thing you're about to hear is a chat Wem and I managed to have with Tim Gill, who's the patron of the FSA. I did record Tim's speech, which was great, but we were sat right at the back and it was so windy that it was almost unintelligible. So we caught up with Tim personally at the end and had a little chat.
Yeah, for the podcast.
Is that all right?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Okay.
for your speech. That was...
Yeah.
Well, I've not seen you speak before.
Oh, okay.
So it was first. That was great.
It's nice feedback. Thank you.
Is that the same? Have you done that speech like lots of times?
No,
Or is
I've
it-
never said most of that stuff ever before.
Oh.
Great.
So, I mean, I do have various topics that are kind of reasonably well rehearsed, and so around risk. I do a lot of work with urban planners and designers these days, so it's a very different audience to this audience, around making neighbourhoods more child-friendly. But I didn't want to do a sort of conventional workshop-y CPD type talk about risk, partly because
You're doing a workshop on
I'm
this,
doing.
aren't
I mean,
you?
although I'm not going to do that there either, but I
Okay.
felt like as a patron, I mean, that patron role is. It's like I'm slightly removed from the day-to-day of this. I'm not an educator myself, although I work with educators. I mean, in a way, I am an educator because all of my
You're
work is about
educating the
knowledge
educators.
transfer. But yes,
Yeah.
I am at one removed from the front line. And as a sort of, sounds a bit grand, but a sort of figurehead, I guess I see that part of my role is to be a sort of interface between the wider world beyond forest school practice and the more everyday activity that forest school practitioners are doing. So that was where I felt I could add a bit of something fresh to that, and also just, and I actually really do love Essex as well, so I wanted to bring in that stuff about this county and the landscapes like this one and like the landscapes that you see a few miles down the road. If we're not doing that in forest school, then I think we really need to be doing more of that.
That connection to place.
Yeah.
We wanted to ask you about, so this is like 10 years of the FSA and you've been a patron, which is amazing. If you were projecting 10 years into the future and we were back at this kind of gathering, like what would you hope for the vibe to be?
I really hope, and I think it is realistic to see a mainstreaming of ideas from forest school, so into primary education, into what you might call classroom practice, although part of that will be that actually we're not learning, kids are not learning in classrooms as much as they are now, and that forging attachment connections with people and place and the planet are a core part of the curriculum. People will see forest school as being a kind of gateway into that reform of the wider curriculum. I mean, I think it's going to be, I'm not saying that's going to be easy, but I think that's a goal worth striving for, and it is achievable over a decade.
Thank you.
Thank you so
I'll
much.
let you get ready for your workshop. Thank you so much.
rosy like a child.
And I feel my skin remembering!
I feel my skin remembering.
And inside I am wild!
And inside I am wild.
You made yourself some tea?
Yes.
What
I made
tea?
myself
What
some
tea did you make in the
nettle
end?
tea. Which is going to pep me up good and proper.
Look at this. It's all going on. There's people in the tent.
Look at these chairs made up of hazel.
Oh, this is very cool.
I really wanted to go on a course to learn how to make these with a hedge laying, coppicing group.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful, aren't they?
Oh, look, it's over there in the other tent.
Oh, yes.
Let's head that way. Oh, look, I like this for Leave and Conquer's on. Have you played this game? So you take the Conquers, like that. You take a string.
Oh, you try and get
And
them
you
up.
just try and get them to, I reckon. Whee, look at that first go. You got it. You got it. You didn't got it.
We're entering.
We're going in.
We're
We're in
entering
the
the
meter
meter
market.
market.
Do you want to explain what a meter market is? Because I didn't know what a meter market was.
Oh, you have to bring things, and the things you're bringing to sell can't fit more than a metre area on a table, or the ground, as we can see here. And it'll be stuff you've made, or stuff you've hoarded, and you can buy things, barter things. I can see knitted items.
Oh, yeah. I can see some wooden things.
Yeah.
I can see a bear called George. It's all going on.
Beautiful pottery.
And this is like very, very short, right?
Yes.
Oh, look at these mushrooms.
Felted tree.
So they're like a little log, and then they've got a felted top to make them into mushrooms. They look a bit like felted maracas. And there's bees as well. Felted bees.
Oh, I love the bees. Those bees are wonderful.
Hello, Sara Knight.
Hello, dear.
You're each holding a microphone.
Yeah.
It's very
It's incestuous.
I feel slightly... Sarah's is a lot bigger than mine, so I'm feeling slightly competitive about this.
Battle it out, man.
What are you doing, Sarah? You're doing all the...
Yeah,
doing
we're still doing the
videography. Is that the word?
I have no idea. We're taking pictures.
You're
so
going
we
around
can
with the
make-
dead cat.
With the dead cat. Jeff just decided it was a mole. I said I'd love to see the molehills that it makes.
Jesus. Alright, we'll leave you to it.
Yeah, thank you.
Ooh, a lot of books. The Green Parent. What else is going on? Oh, what are these books?
Oh, journals.
Memory journals. Yes. Oh, wow. Are these yours? Did you make these? No. Is this you? Are you Daniel and Mel? You sent me an email. Hello. Very nice to meet you. Oh, it's interesting seeing it properly as a book. Amazing. Oh, wow. So are the different colours different things?
Yeah, so these are adult-based ones and these are children's-based ones. These are primary and early years and these are secondary school.
Have a look at this one. Trail Journey Series, Woodland.
Yeah, this one's for like grief, this one's for comparing and contrasting your country to another country that you visited, and then that's just a generic like parents one to go with this. That one's trying to engage like teenagers with their tech life.
Okay.
With going and spending time in nature and how to combine them to like help them as they adult.
5 inspiring news articles. Industry contacts made.
You know, like
It's a big
people
one.
that are like 16 to 18
Yeah.
to get into like the job world, but trying to keep them grounded in nature at the same time. Getting them to like journal their nature walks and experiences, but also helping them with like some of the real world stuff that they are having to go
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
Mission school.
Oh, great. Oh, look, I hope they go well. What have we got on this one? I'm looking here. I'm sidling up Mr. Terry now. You're going to have to describe. You can't make claims out loud like world's biggest water can collection and then not back them up.
Well, because there is no sort of central organisation that governs these things, I can make claims like that quite easily.
Not that you know of. Now, just to clarify,
It's like-
single watering can or collection of watering cans?
A collection of water cans.
I see.
Yeah.
Not one massive one.
Every time I get an empty can, I think that's going to be useful. So they go in the shed. And then before you know it, you've got 3 sheds. They're not all full of water
What's your
cans.
favourite? You got a favourite?
Water cans?
Yeah. Got a best one? Do you like a rose? Do you like a rose?
Well, we're getting into watering cans now. We're talking about the
Oh,
ubiquitous
literally
5
just
litre
the, like-
water can. Yeah.
Like a jerry can, plastic jerry can
The ones that
types.
can be made into tippy taps and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I've actually developed an invention where you can make a paper towel dispenser out of 2 5 litre water cans.
No way.
Yep.
Whoa.
You'll be seeing them everywhere soon.
Patent it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Cut the end off both of them and then they can slot
them together.
Cut some slots in them and you've got a paper towel dispenser.
Oh. Is it on your stuff? Can people see this invention?
I got one in the van, actually. Yeah, I could go and fish it out later.
Or we'll send people to your social media and then they'll see it.
Yeah. 5 litre water cans are the thing.
They are.
Full of uses.
Trying to make use of stuff that's already everywhere anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
What are
Never
you
throw anything away.
What are you getting, Wem?
Gloves.
Gloves?
Small gloves for
Small
things
gloves?
for things like
Work gloves?
Yeah, and for like picking singing nettles, things like that. Thank you. Yeah.
Then we can make more nettle string. Yes. That's the way. What else have we got? Survival whistles.
So 2, 4, 6, 8. Do you want to get a pound's worth? There we go. 5, 6. Just got £1.
Okay, that.
I call it the There was a crazy moose. There was a crazy moose. He liked to drink a lot of juice. He liked to drink a lot of juice. There was a crazy moose. There was a crazy moose. He liked to drink a lot of juice. He liked to drink a lot of juice. Singing way oh way oh. Singing way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh. Way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. The moose's name was Fred. The moose's name was Fred. He liked to drink his juice in bed. He liked to drink his juice in bed. The moose's name was Fred. The moose's name was Fred. He liked to drink his juice in bed. He liked to drink his juice in bed. Singing way oh way oh. Singing way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh. Way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. He drank his juice with care. He drank his juice with care. But he spilled it in his hat. But he spilled it in his hat. He drank his juice with care. He drank his juice with care. But he spilled it in his hat. But he spilled it in his hat. Singing way oh way oh. Singing way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh. Way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. The moose's hair got stiff. The moose's hair got stiff. So he put it in a quip. So he put it in a quip. The moose's hair got stiff. The moose's hair got stiff. So he put it in a quip. So he put it in a quip. Singing way oh way oh. Singing way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh. Way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. Way oh way oh way oh way oh. That's it.
This next chat is about halfway through Saturday. Wem had just come off a workshop with Mell Harrison, and I managed to grab Mel just as she was packing up and have a little chat with her. I'm gonna be incredibly cheeky because we're here with Mel, and I haven't done your workshop, but Wem has just come. So Wem and I have to say we're not allowed to do the same workshops, and we just refer to each other as our external brains. You go do that one and come back and tell me, and I'll go do this one, and then we're
That's what we did too.
One brain. Have you done the same thing?
Yeah.
It's a good way to do it, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And then you don't get the FOMO is less. You do come back doubly with like, okay, but we're doing this thing together. So you've just done about circles.
Yeah.
And I can see circle of trust on a board with high trust and moderate trust. But Wem's just been talking to me about things that are circles that are not circles.
Circles that are not circles.
Things.
When they've broken down into smaller groups and they're discussing in their smaller groups and then coming back to circle. Is that what she meant by circles that are not
Well, she was
circles?
talking about things like eating pancakes is a type of circle and games are a type of circle.
Yes.
And how freeing that is as a like, it doesn't have to be sit down, pass the thing round.
No, not at all.
So tell me about things that are circles that aren't circles.
Circles that aren't circles, like circle magnets.
Yeah.
So food is always good, isn't it? You know, like in the morning, you're cooking something really nice on the fire and they come in and you say, hey, this stuff is happening. And then you're just waiting until, hang on, I'll be ready in a minute, Let them go off, do their thing, come back, eat. You're all in the same place. You're all communicating. You know, it's not a sit down, let's focus circle, but you're still there and checking in on each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, games. I think we did a circle animal yoga.
Be very quiet, Emma. Like I've turned this on and you've suddenly gone, I mustn't speak. You can come be in, you can chat. And a song?
Yeah.
Song in a circle?
We did a song in the circle. Secret Snail. We did Secret Snail.
What, Secret Snail? I need to know about Secret Snail.
Secret Snail.
Well, that's part of the game, isn't it? Surely.
Actually, Secret Snail was gifted to me.
I have a secret
Like-
snail in my house.
No way.
I have a little tiny.
You
well,
might not anymore, because I might have it.
It's from a TV show called Adventure Time, and I've got 3D printer in my house. So I made it. It's like this big, and the game is me and my wife just put the secret snail in different places that we know the other one. And when you find it, you just hear from in the house, "Ah, you bastard!" Right, and then you move it, and then you know it's your turn to find it somewhere else.
I'm glad there's more than one secret snail.
Is that?
This was a spoon that a woman who comes on one of my Wood Sisters Forest School, which is for adult women. She paid me in spoons, and this is I know,
Whoa.
I know, and so that was our swap.
So I thought you couldn't get more wonky. I love it.
Anyway, spoons are fine. Pay me in spoon. But look, that she's made it. She goes,
beautiful.
she said it's probably useless. She didn't say it was a snail. She said it was like a fork in a spoon.
Just to describe it, because people can't see that.
Oh,
so
no.
it's a spoon, but the shell, the sort of bowl of the spoon is the shell, and then it's got the head of the
like
snail
two little
and
prongs coming out.
It's like a fork spoon.
It's like a spork snail.
This is how sporks should be.
This is
if
how
they were designed.
If they were designed properly and
Yes.
they had proper uses,
They would be like that.
they would be a secret snail.
So why is it a secret snail?
Because okay, don't look.
Oh, okay. This is going to work really well on a podcast. I'm not looking. Don't look. People listening at home. Don't look. Don't you look either. Don't look, people. There's now rustling.
Okay,
Can hear.
I won't put the same thing that was under before.
Yeah, great.
Because that was different. Okay, here we are.
Right, here we are. Hello.
Here we
Right,
are.
I'm turning around.
In the woods with secret.
And the snail is now cupped down
Yeah,
on your hand.
He's secretive.
It's secretive.
He's a secretive snail that
Yes,
has something
you're pressing it,
secret underneath him. Right?
Oh, shit.
But the
Okay.
only way to find out what is the secret thing inside the snail is to ask me. You're not allowed to guess in these. You just have to ask me 5 questions with a yes/no answer.
Okay.
Then you get to guess. Only then do you get to guess, because
After
secret
5.
snail is quite strict.
Okay. Has the thing that's under the snail come from a tree? Was it at one point joined to a tree?
Yes, I think I can say yes.
Okay.
But only because...
This is good.
Oh, no,
you
no,
said
yes,
yes,
no.
but Emma's given me more facial expressions,
tell
so
you
I'm
what,
not just getting yes, no here. I'm getting a lot more information.
It's yes, but there's more to it.
There's more to it.
It definitely came from a tree
Okay.
at some point.
Okay. If it was on my skin, if I was holding it in my hand,
Yeah.
would I have any sensation other than weight?
You would have like a cold. Oh no! Yes, no answer.
Shit, nearly got you.
Ah!
So what I mean
yes.
is, I'll give the answer. So
Yes.
I might have a sensation of like moisture or
Yes,
spikes
you
or
would,
something else.
yes.
Okay, so
You would have
okay,
another-
I'd have
yes.
another sensation. Will this thing still be here in, like, if you put it on the ground now,
Yeah.
would it have decomposed within a year?
Yes.
That's 3, isn't it? Did you have to manipulate it to get it inside the bowl of the spoon? So, like, was it bigger and you've had to make it smaller to get in the spoon? No.
It should always fit inside Secret Snail.
Would it make a... Yeah, but you might have scrunched up a...
Squish in, yeah.
If you dropped it into a metal pan,
Yeah.
would it make an audible noise?
You are asking me the most unusual questions
Thank
I've ever
you.
been asked for. Would it make a noise if I dropped it into a metal
dropped
pan
it into
with
a
no water?
No water, just an empty saucepan. If you dropped it...
Yes, it would make a noise.
It would make a noise.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to guess that it's a very tiny pebble.
Oh, let's see. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh! It's the cap of a sulphur tuft, right?
Or a log nipple.
Oh, okay.
We don't name and label.
Sure.
Yeah, so that anyway.
Oh, I like that game though.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So
Yeah,
that
so
is
you
a
can have a box
so that's
in
a
it.
type of circle.
So that's
you
because
can
you're
do this
drawing
thing.
in and it's your community, you're building community. And so there's at least, I don't even know if it's still on here. I can have a little look. This one.
Oh yeah.
And this is from that circle process as
So
well.
we've got a circle drawn in cut into quarters.
Yeah, so this is based on the medicine wheel.
Yes, northeast, southwest.
Northeast,
I see.
southwest. And what it's basically saying is don't forget to put equal energy into all 4 of these areas to create good elements of circle.
So the energies we've got, the areas we've got are getting to know each other. And then another one we've got building trust and understanding. Another one we've got content, which has got magic, noticing, and story. And then the last one has got developing a sense of unity.
Mm-hmm.
So putting equal energy into those things.
Yeah. So sometimes we all fall into a different area, and sometimes you can fall into just doing things in your circle all the time with a story or a song or whatever, and then sending them off.
Yes.
And then other people are like, they really want to do this bit.
They're getting to know each other.
Getting to know each other and asking lots of questions about each other. What do you think about this? Where actually what's needed is the balance of all 4 of them. And so it's just a model to help us remember.
It's like needs mapping for your group.
Yeah.
That's how when I see those things, it's like, do they need any more getting to know each other? Probably not, but actually that's the one, like you say, you might have a group. Actually, that makes complete sense, doesn't it? If you frame it as you've got take a class group where you're like, they've been together since they were 4, they're now in year 4, and they're with each other 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. Do they need any more getting to know each other?
Do they really want to hear what Bob's favourite colour is again?
Yeah.
Doubtful.
Probably not.
But you have to know that that's been happening and that they do
Yes.
know each other. And obviously you get to know each other on a deeper level.
Of course. Yeah.
But yes. And then, this is really the kind of the building the sense of unity and community. And that's the one that's continuous, isn't it, as we're growing as a community. Yeah.
Yes. And then sometimes I can see the challenges being, so like for us, our groups are so long term that it's quite a novel experience when someone new comes in. So the group as a whole doesn't need to getting to know each other, but one person arrives with a very strong need of getting to know each other, and how you balance those things. You probably can't balance that in a circle, but you can balance that with a game or with a
with all the different things that you've just and I think that because I also run those long-term groups where people come in and out of. It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's lovely.
It. But sometimes it's really easy to forget that person is coming into. Yes, the circle is holding itself. The group holds itself. They've got their own culture. They've got all of that, and it's easy to forget how much that person needs. You're revisiting, so this is go back to obviously that's the circle of trust.
These circles of trust getting
So
lower
they're
and
out
lower as we
here
get out.
At this point, they're still out here with no intimacy, no trust, and they're moving on through the layers. They're going to begin to trust you, and then they trust you a little bit more moderate trust and intimacy. And then by the time you've built that culture, that community, there's much more high trust for them to be able to talk to you about what's going on for them, or to experience that. And then that moves on to this.
You've got your wheel, which I've taken a picture of, and I will...
It's mostly on my trousers
It's
now.
the chalk has come off. I've put a picture of this. I'm going to put a picture of this in the notes of the podcast rather than me reading all of these things.
Maybe secret snail should go in.
Should go
to put
in.
equal, importance on all four. Secret snail should go in as a photograph.
Oh, definitely.
Saying. But so this bit here is a spiral. So what we're seeing here is a spiral going in that is drawn in white, and a spiral in green that is going out from there. And so the beginning of the spiral begins on the outside of the spiral going in, the spiral of authenticity.
Towards a heart. I think that's the important thing, isn't it? You're spiralling in towards a heart.
Yeah, where people are kind of, we're just noticing that there is a level of insecurity and disconnect when we're going through the spiral, when we're getting to know people, when we're building community. And then there is a releasing in that, because you're kind of going, okay, where am I at, what's going on? And with that comes unmasking, and it's the unmasking and the truth telling that can be, and the healing actually, but it's particularly the unmasking and the truth telling that can be the challenging bit, the messy stuff.
Yeah. You go,
it's,
great! Oh no.
Yeah. Oh great, they've got to that stage where they're really unmasking and telling me.
You are not masking with me at all.
No.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Here it is,
Could
where
you
they
possibly
go,
mask a little bit?
So that's that, and then they come through to the healing, and with healing comes opening and a vulnerability. So we're in at the heart, and then when we're at the heart and we feel the warmth of community, we feel the warmth of circle, being together, we begin to emerge from there. And with the emerging becomes revealing. You start to kind of just show a little bit more about who you are and what your needs are. And with doing that, you start trusting the community around you, the circle. Then you start connecting with yourself and each other. And when you do that, you get a sense of belonging, and that belonging builds community. And then from community comes the self-worth stuff. So we were looking at, that kind of building of the self-worth with your self-image and your image of self, self-image stuff. And then you carry on coming out from your self-worth. So that begins to build. You're feeling this community, deep sense of belonging, and then it comes out to a freedom to be me-ness. And then, it's just like, it doesn't all happen to all of everybody in our groups at the same time. So this spiral is spiraling on round, and then something can happen, a death in the family or something big that happens that actually throws you back to, oh my God, I'm back here feeling insecure and disconnected.
Yeah.
And with our children and with all they're dealing with, I think it's a useful model.
Do you think so we're saying that things can go back round this spiral. Would it be fair to say that the more often you've worked your way into the spiral, the more well-worn that path is? So if you do get spun back to insecurity, if you've gone in a few times, that's got to be getting easier every time.
When you think of, say, if there was something big that happened in a child's life or an adult's life who's come into forest school, and they were feeling all of this, and then they had a break, and then they come back in again, there's still going to be this, isn't there? Like, even if you've missed a session for a couple of weeks sometimes, you can just still, there might be some of this. And, for us not to expect them to be, to be free to be themselves straight away with these things that there are.
Well, I think I can see this in a micro scale on a play cycle level. Just even in a 10-15 minute bit of social playing. I can think of learners I've had where there's 3 or 4 of them, they always play together, but one person arrives and they're going to start insecure, and then they're going to get into this. So even in just we're playing princesses who live in the castle, you're still going through that spiral, because you're going to start at that surface level of play, and it's only when you get really deep into it that you get to the like, actually I'm a princess that needs this, and I don't, you know. Oh, that's very interesting. Oh, thank you.
It with a play cycle, juicy.
I know.
It's good.
I'm good like that. Oh, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And what have you got? You said you're not running workshops now. You're free for the rest of the conference.
I'm free. I think I'm helping close circle at the end.
Do you want the drums for the
yes,
closed circle
please.
at the end?
Can you slide in on the?
Sure.
With the drum, that'd be brilliant. Yes, please.
Lush. I look forward to it. So what you're about to hear, Waffle Cats, is a selection of some of the questions from Matt's quiz. Apologies for the sort of rowdy noise in the background. This was going on from memory at about 9 o'clock at night. Everybody's in good mood. I'll play the questions. I'm going to space them out a little bit, and I'll put some music underneath so that you can have a bit of time to think about the answers. Any issues with the questions, I would direct you to Matt. He is Bluebell Bushcraft. Please feel free to go and harass him, because everybody harassed him in person, so we might as well add to that and do it virtually as well. I've not included the answers, so maybe you can send them straight to Matt and he'll enjoy going through that. Right?
Number 2, what is a vinculum? Number 3, +1 is the international dial code for which 2 countries. Number 4, the base unit of measurement for length is meters. What is measured? Moles. Number 5, how many dots are there on a pair of dice? Number 6, what do the letters A, B, V stand for? Number 7, what is typically the strongest muscle in the human body? Number 8, what is the currency in Ukraine? And number 9, in Morse code, what letter is represented by dash, dot, dash, dash? And number 10, where might you find a scuncture? Number 1, in which franchise would you find the Everdeen family? Number 2, who played the first televised James Bond? Number 3, which mischievous character from the Harry Potter books is omitted in the films? Number 4, which book, written by Isaac Asimov, was turned into a blockbuster starring Will Smith? Number 5, how many films have been made so far from Tolkien's books about hobbits? Number 6, which actor played the voice of Aslan in the Narnia films? Number 7, who plays Mr. Curry in the film versions of Paddington? Number 8, who is the author of the Da Vinci Code? Number 9, which 2 actors have played Willy Wonka in feature-length films? And number 10, in which year was the first Twilight Saga movie released, based on the 2005 book by Stephanie Myers?
It won't make any sense if the listeners can't actually hear that there is a band playing in the background.
Oh, they can hear a band playing in the background
because you
they
can see the little bars.
Look, even if you don't talk.
Yeah. Dirty old toad. Dirty old toad.
Oh, how's your day been, mate? Tell me about your day.
Your day's been great, mate.
We're sat in the dark now.
We are sat in the dark underneath a mighty oak tree.
Under the big... let's sing one song while there's another song in the background.
Oak, oak, oak of old.
The oak tree of oak. Tell me about your day.
I'd say if I had to describe my day in 2 words.
Yeah.
My day is how I feel about my day. It's recharged and relaxed. That's how I feel about my day. Can I tell the listeners about my new jag of in the okay, especially at the time of year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So change of the seasons. It's 1st of October today, I do believe, or it might be the 2nd. I don't know.
It is first today. Yeah.
So weird time. Everyone's feeling a bit jangly. Like I've lost count of the amount of people in my life who I know and care about who've gone like, oh, I'm just feeling a bit weird. Why is everything so hard? Everything's fucked up. And I think part of that is about the change of seasons and the sudden like loss of the light and all those things, and it just is like shakes everything up, and everyone goes, ah! And that's normal. And I like the thing that I've been inviting you to do in the morning about like, what are your like mantras? I don't even know if mantras is the right word, but like 2 words that you're channeling for your day. So if you're like doing forest school practice and you're just finding things a bit tough at the moment, like it's a time of change, maybe groups that have been like really easy and serene and lovely, playing in the woods in the summer sunshine, and now like a bit jangly, a bit tricky, people are working through some stuff. I found it so helpful to have these like 2 words to anchor to, which isn't necessarily how you feel at the start of the day, but it's how you want to be as a practitioner.
Yeah.
So one of the days this week, my words were serene and calm, and yours were like in
control and productive.
Yeah.
Those
and
were
then
my
the day before it was like joy and ease or something was my words for the day before.
Yeah.
And I just find it really helped, and then I was like, and then I could use those to reflect back to through the day and go, why am I doing this thing? This doesn't connect to the words. I found myself like cleaning a box.
Working towards my words.
I was like, why am I cleaning this box now? Like, it's just because it's there, it's something to do, but it doesn't connect to my words right now and what I want to be and what I want to give to these other humans and more than human.
So you've been recharged and relaxed.
My words today, but that's from a reflective point of view. I feel relaxed and recharged, which is always the thing about these kind of events. I think you think, oh God, I've got to travel there, got to pack my stuff. Oh really? Got to talk to those people I don't necessarily know. And then actually, it's like you said, a different type of rest.
Yes.
A time when you might be tired. It's like a recharging, restful. This is why I believe in this shit, man. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing with these other people who are also doing the thing that we're doing.
Yeah, there's something, I don't know if we'll put it in, but Tim Gill was talking this morning about it's a mark of success when a movement has disparity inside its own like practice. So he was saying like...
Did he say that?
He was saying that like...
It's a we at that point.
Okay, he was saying that like it's a mark of the success of like the feminism movement, in that there are different views on what feminism looks like, and there's and he was saying, as much as it is difficult and sometimes challenging, it is a mark of how much forest school permeates things, that there are different ways of doing it and different interpretations, and I think in the way you're saying like relaxing, there is something relaxing, because you and I, we've got each other, man. But day to day, we don't have anybody else. No, we don't work in a school, is what I mean. We don't work with like a whole staff room to go and talk. We have
or a big team,
and so the like diaspora of forest school is coming together, and it's easy in the sense of like everyone here at some level has the same educational views as you to a greater or lesser degree, but like that is quite relaxing.
They value a lot of the same things that you value.
Yeah.
So you can be quite yourself.
Yes. You don't have to mask all. There's bits of it that then that becomes easier, and also seeing people and putting faces to like things that you see online, like projects that you've seen online, or like people's thoughts that you've seen online. You're like, oh, you're the person behind those thoughts, behind that project, and like
that's quite exciting. And I think there's a thing about, which I always forget, Sorry, I'm burping. The food is really good.
Food is cracking
But
this year.
I am burping. There's a thing which I always forget, which is that when I look at the conference blurb or any kind of thing like that, and there's like, oh, which workshops we're going to do? Oh, that one looks really interesting. That one looks really interesting. Oh, but maybe I won't do that because, like, I think I already do a lot of that, or I already know a lot of that thing. And my first point is that actually you can book onto a workshop even if you think that you already do a lot of that thing or you know a lot of that stuff, because actually there is joy in just having 2 hours to wallow about in that thing and really give it some headspace. And it's not necessarily about learning new things, it's just about like playing and gaining a new depth to it perhaps. And also that there is so much learning that happens that's nothing to do with the workshops. It's just while you might be like, playing next to somebody tying knots on bits of wood, which I was doing today, which was hella fun, but then you end up having a conversation with someone next to you and who goes, oh yeah, you know that thing? You're like, no, what thing? And they start saying, you're like, oh my god, I'm going to look that up, that sounds wicked. Oh, you do that? Oh, why didn't I think of that? That's such a good idea to do the thing.
It's like invigorating.
Yeah, and you get little sparky moments, I guess, of like reflection on people's practice, but not in a really like we're all going to sit down and reflect on our practice. You're just walking to get a sandwich with somebody and they're like, oh yeah, you know that thing you said about working with 5-year-olds, actually I found this like little hack for that, and you're like, oh yeah.
Would you say, I was thinking earlier that I think one of the reasons that our podcast works and like the interviews stuff works is the same reason that there's like a crossover here between why it's great to meet and talk to people at the conference, which is like,
you think our podcast works?
Let me get to the end. Because there's like the juicy bit is not necessarily the first direct answer to the question. The juicy bit comes in the chat when you unpick the answer. Yeah. And that's why I think what we do on the podcast works, because we're trying to answer the thing. You're pointing because the fire's being lit over there. We'll go and explore the fire in a bit, shall we?
Yeah, definitely. Get some crackling sounds on the...
But yeah, so that stuff that you might get an immediate answer. You could ask the same questions and talk about the same subjects on a Facebook group or on a something, but like actually the meaty bit is like once you've said the initial like, I think it's this. All right, that's kind of interesting. And why'd you do that? I know why they would do that. Like that stuff afterwards is the bit where I get really like jazzed up and you get into the nitty gritty and you actually understand other human beings and how they work and all those things.
And it's nice also being the other side of that and someone going, sorry, you mentioned that thing about the thing. What was that song you were talking about? Oh, that book. Can you tell me? And then you tell them, and then you really honestly feel like you've given them a great birthday present. And they're like, thanks for that. I'm really excited about looking into that. And you're like, it's my pleasure. And you get a little reciprocal kind of jazz. I like that. Jazzed up.
It's like a bring and share.
Yes.
Everybody brings all their pedagogy, and everybody shares all their pedagogy.
Yeah. It's like a metaphor for the meter market. Just bring your...
You nearly said bring your crap.
No, I didn't. I was
nearly said bring your crap.
I didn't. I genuinely was talking and then I heard them start this song and I was like, I know this song. Didn't you say you played this at your wedding?
I did play this at my wedding.
It's the ultimate wedding song.
And the old Bobby Davro. Bobby Davro, Bobby Davro, Bobby Davro. That one. You don't know that one?
No.
That's the words, mate.
I don't think I do. I'm amazed you know who Bobby Davro is. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's just random sounds to you.
Hang on.
And then you go, Bobby Davro.
Yeah.
Bobby Davro.
The sound. I just learned phonically. I've had a very interesting day.
I was going to say
I've had a very I on the surface I feel like I had a body. So last up, we've got a recording of Sara Knight's speech, which she delivered on Sunday morning. Great speech, all talking about Sarah's work and, I should say Dr. Sara Knight, who is talking about her PhD work. In the middle, she talks about men falling at her feet, which is because I had tried to be helpful because the microphone was singing, and so I jumped in to go and play with all the audio things, and what I hadn't realised was that myself and Nick were basically bent over with our bums up in front of the whole crowd. So yeah, that's what you get for being helpful. But the rest of Sarah's speech is amazing and really inspiring, and I hope you have enjoyed hearing these little clips of the conference. Do think about coming next year if you can. It's really great to meet up and meet all the sort of varying people that are doing forest school work and all coming together in this like communal space. It's really, really great. And I know if Wen was well enough to be doing this audio as well, she would be saying the same thing. And I wasn't there, but I want to say a special thanks to whoever, somebody sang to Wem, somebody came up to Wem and started singing her Song Wars song, Check It, Check It, Check It Again. And she was beside herself with happiness. She came up and told me, and yeah, she was very, very happy. So yeah, think about coming next year. It's cool. And yeah, enjoyed this speech from Sarah, and I hope you've enjoyed the whole thing. Bye.
Like a grown-up with your glasses on. Okay, so finally, I've always done my qualifications upside down and back to front, like I suspect so many people here. I left school with 1 O-level and built up from there. And I decided during COVID that I'd do my PhD. And a PhD has to be an original contribution to knowledge. You have to work out something that nobody else has worked out before. And I did it by PhD by prior publication, which meant going back over my publications for the last 10 years and contextualising them with other people's writing and drawing out from them what it is that I hadn't picked up the first time when I scribbled them, which you can do. I have to say it's not the easiest method, but it's the quickest method of doing a PhD. So, what I've done, I've looked at the lessons that I learned, and there's a lot of rich lessons that I'd like to share with you, and that's why I've called this talk Back to the Future. Nick said, is that about DeLorean cars? No, it's not about cars. It's not about sci-fi. It's about looking back at what I've done and what the lessons are for the future. So first lesson, none of us would be here today if we didn't think that everybody benefits. This is too loud, isn't it? Because it's singing slightly. Okay. Everyone's singing. Yeah, but it's unlikely to be embraced by policymakers and educators at a higher level without hard evidence of benefits from a strong theoretical foundation. We've got the evidence. You look at the lists of papers in the history tent. There are loads of people who have collected evidence from the benefits of forest school. It's not helped by the fact that some researchers call what they're looking at forest school when it isn't, and some people who are looking at things and don't call it forest school when it is. For example, I asked Tim Waller way back when he and I were both working at the same university why his paper, The Trampoline Tree and the 18-Headed Monster, didn't reference forest school. And he said, oh well, all the forest school sessions I've seen, the teachers have told the children what to do. My session, what I was observing was free play. Now that was before the 6 principles were agreed, and I think that's a big difference. But it does mean that if you are reading papers, think wide, then work out whether it's actually references what it is that, whether it applies to you or not. So some researchers in their papers have made strong theoretical links, not all of them. So why aren't the powers that be beating a path to our door to integrate forest school into the lived experience of the rest of the population? Well, in part, it's to do with the nature of the research that we do and the way in which policy is developed in the UK. men at my feet. So I've experienced some of both, including contributing to a policy breakfast at the House of Commons. Have you finished? Oh, good. Ah, yes,
the fact
that's
that
why
you've
I've seen it.
experienced both.
Yeah. No. Both. No, yes. Contributing to policy and the nature of research. So I went to a policy breakfast at the House of Commons. That was daunting. I had discussions with researchers from the Department of Education. That was dispiriting. Policy is, on the whole, developed very quickly from easily accessible data that fits the general trend of a government in power. That doesn't help. Anything that doesn't conform to that direction of travel needs numbers. Lots of them. Which are typically found in sciences where researchers, largely but not exclusively, undertake quantitative research. Quantitative, key in the word. And we don't tend to do that. Well, you can just look at the paper that Richardson and Professor Richardson and his colleagues from the University of Derby produced in 2020. The numbers in that are phenomenal. It's about nature connection, so it has relevance, but it's not about forest school. We don't tend to do that. The closest I've ever come to it was my 2019 paper with Graham Arnold, who was very good at translating what I discovered into pretty pictures and graphs and tables and things. That helps those who are higher up the food chain to have a glance at it and quickly grasp the facts, which is what they're likely to do. They'll glance at the figures and then they'll pass it on to a minion to develop a paragraph in a white paper or whatever it is. So it's got to be instantly accessible if it's new. It doesn't matter if it's not new, and I'll go on to that in a second. If you read most of our research, it's qualitative. It's case studies. It's records of projects. It's ethnographies. It's a real rich wealth of lived experience, meticulously charting the real records of progress made by individuals on their forest school journeys. Stuff you have to read and digest and appreciate and think about. And it's usually done by recording the experiences of small numbers of participants. So not easily counted like buttons, and not very many buttons when you can count them. That's why Nick has been slaving away to get an app developed to enable all of you to record and dump the data where postgrad people who are doing their masters, their PhDs or whatever, who are also forest school practitioners, and there are a number in the room here, can access that data and create something that enables us to set out the pretty buttons in nice patterns so we can influence the policymakers. It's not to advocate abandoning the aforementioned rich data, because that comes into play once the supertanker of state policy has turned. We need both, but we need numbers first. Point one. What else is missing, and what my thesis set out to do very much, is to present a coherent overview of the relevant theoretical perspectives and synthesise them into a credible theoretical framework. Sunday morning, and I can say that sentence. Hey! One key, I do believe, is in doing that is interdisciplinarity. In my search for the complete theoretical framework for forest school, I've read work by academics and researchers from a wide range of disciplines: philosophy, education, psychology, health, art, sociology, theology, biology, etc., etc. All contribute valuable insights into why we do what we do. I've explored their different and separate ideas in my writings, but I concluded that it's when these ideas come together that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, as Aristotle once said. Spoke to himself. By contrast, the papers I reviewed in my thesis sometimes have a degree of multidisciplinary perspective in them. And that is, each person is still looking at forest school through a single lens, but they are talking to each other. If they are only looking through a single lens, and most research is just from one lens, it might be education, it might be PE, it might be all sorts of different things, the researcher tends not to value the aspects of the practice than another person would. So an early years practitioner might be looking at the way it encourages language development. A PE teacher might be looking at the way it increases people's physical abilities, all sorts of things like that. But they don't look at each other's perspective, and so they miss bits. They miss bits of the importance of the philosophy. They might miss out the psychological and biological value of attachment that can only come from experience that takes place over time. I think that's a key one. A guy called Burton, who was researching in the medical context, thank you, produced a paper with colleagues in 2019 where he called this multidisciplinary convergence insufficiency. I think it's a lovely term. It's a term that's actually borrowed from ophthalmic medicine, because where your eyes don't work properly, you don't see things clearly. I think it's a lovely idea. So he proposed a complex systems theory in which collaborators from different disciplines undertake a process before they start their research to align their thoughts and ideas and discuss the different perspectives before they actually start a body of research. That really looks hard. And I haven't tried it yet, but I do think it's way to go. I can think that we really produce some really rich research that way. If we could converge our research in forest school, the findings could be really powerful. For example, you've got Dewey with experiential outdoor learning, Piaget, Vygotsky and Brunner in education, Foucault in philosophy, Hart from playwork, all say similar things about the benefits of people having agency over their own experiences. And if you mix up theories about attachment from Wilson, from biology, from Winnicott in early years, Harrison in geography, Watcho and Brown in outdoor adventure learning, Jung from psychology, we find that humans and the planet are healthier if we feel an attachment to a natural place that is in turn part of our self-identity. We could look at other themes like that. They'll be susceptible to a similar approach. Maybe the relevance of trees to human well-being, the role of play in personal development, the central importance of engagement with issues around sustainability, the importance of nature connection. All of those things are susceptible to that. So in my head, the theoretical picture of forest school resembles very much the wood wide web, with the tree of forest school being nurtured by the nutrients of a rich mycorrhizal network of interdisciplinary research and thought. This Gestalt image creates a more complex and complete picture of forest school and its place in the forest of outdoor learning. I think it's important at this juncture to point out all trees are lovely, all trees have their place. And so it is, there are other trees in the outdoor learning forest that all have value and a role to play. When we first came together to form the National Forest School Group in the early noughties, we did so under the umbrella of the Institute for Outdoor Learning. We were the Forest School Special Interest Group, just one of many special interest groups. They're now called professional communities, and where those communities do not want or do not have the resources to become independent in the way that the FSA has become, they are still under that IOL umbrella, just as the Nature Premium movement is now. And indeed, we still contract IOL to deliver some of our admin tasks, and many forest school members are also members of IOL, particularly those whose initial training was in other areas of outdoor learning. And there are overlaps, obviously, with bushcraft, but with other trees in the forest. And just as trees can share mycorrhizal nutrients, so can we. So if you find that your practice aligns with a different tree in the forest, accept that. Be proud of what you do. All the trees have a role, be they environmental education, field studies, bushcraft, horticulture, earth education, adventurous activities, da-da-da-da-da. Call it what it is. Don't try and squeeze what it isn't into forest school. Be proud of what you do. Forest School adheres to the 6 principles, and if you haven't got those tattooed on your soul, please do so immediately. They represent the collective heart-searching with the Forest School community in a huge project, started in about 2010, went through to about 2012, working together to decide what it is that we do in our sessions, which are all so very different, but that enable us to deliver very similar outcomes, regardless of who we are and who we're working with. It was an extremely powerful bit of collective soul-searching by a community that had grown from the roots up, with no imposed top-down definitions. The 6 principles were not imposed, they were debated and agreed. And the bottom-up nature of Forest School is a great strength. It should never be overlooked. I even found a theoretical expression from the way in which it was created, how we developed Forest School from its original idea, imported from 1993. It is social constructionism. Those of you who are early years trained will be familiar with social constructivism from Vygotsky and others, sharing ideas about the more knowledgeable other, about learning in social groups. And that is where knowledge is socially constructed by more able others, sharing, leading, instructing consciously. Social constructionism is more of a subconscious process, where gatherings of people who share the same goal unconsciously align their shared knowledge and experience and make assumptions that become true through their debates and usage and practice. So when those of us who met together in the late 1990s and early noughties, we had all been interpreting Forest School in our own individual ways, according to our own prior knowledge and our experiences. And we met in this funny little church hall in Birmingham, under the auspices of the Forestry Commission, who were very, very supportive at the time. And in those meetings, while we debated the national framework we wanted to achieve, at an unconscious level, we were sharing and aligning our belief systems about Forest School. We had made assumptions, and through our discussions, we then made those assumptions a reality. And since then, we've had conferences, and regionally and nationally, that continue this process, like today, like this weekend. And more recently, the process has been extended to webinars and online fora. We come together, feel to a greater or lesser extent part of a tribe. We overtly share knowledge, skills, stories, and covertly continue to shape and mould what Forest School is and what the FSA is. So recognising the importance of social constructionism and an interdisciplinary approach to research has really informed my thinking about the origins and the development of Forest School. Forest School has been co-constructed over 20 years by practitioners, including myself, into a new identifiable way of working outside. Together we developed the 6 principles, and they capture the vision of Forest School that's still relevant and referenced today. You can see it in the papers from 2020, 2021, listed in the history tent. And we are getting tantalisingly close to being able to evidence that when all 6 principles are integrated in a Forest School setting, the outcomes are greater than in a comparable setting where one of them is not being adhered to. A quick overview gives us a clue as to why this is the case. Exploring the disciplines of psychology, anthropology, biology and human development will give us clues as to why the long-term principle is related to attachment and all the benefits that accrue from a secure sense of identity and belonging, to brain changes, neural pathways that take time to myelinize and shape our patterns of behaviour. This whole area of attachment and how it feeds from early years to outdoor learning together is really fascinating me. One I'd like to research further, and I've been speaking to two people in the room just now who are about to do a master's and a PhD on very allied subjects, which is just great. The more data we get out there, the better. I feel I've only touched the surface of a well of fundamental truths around that area. Then we get on to trained leaders who have both the knowledge and the skills needed to work with their groups. They've been through a rigorous process of equalising their skills. Teachers learn about bushcraft, forest rangers learn about home and human development, etc. And like driving a car, that is enough to make you safe in the woods. Ongoing CPD will develop your understanding and skill set and turn you into a good forest school practitioner. While not wanting to exclude those who cannot work in deep forest, we acknowledge the spiritual and psychological power of the interaction between humans and trees. It's no coincidence that every major faith on earth has a tree in its story somewhere. Fortunately for the very young, even a small clump of trees is very impressive. Educational philosophers from Socrates to Pelosi, Dewey, Piaget, Vygotsky and Brunner, other pioneers of play work such as Huizinga and our own Bob Hughes agree that being person-centred processes create the best community for being, developing and learning. The learning is much more likely to be holistic, rounded and complete if we hand the locus of control to the participants, even if it requires conventionally trained teachers and instructors to sit on their hands. Or better still, observe, and when invited, participate. Closely allied to being person-centred is facilitating risk-taking. Risks appropriate to the participant, the location, and to the skills of the leader, which is usually more critical than the other two, but skills that will develop resilience and confidence. The 6 principles help synthesise pedagogical and practical approaches originating in different disciplines to create an interdisciplinary foundation for forest school in the UK. They wrap round the differences like the bark of a tree, holding it together. And this binding together ensures the quality of forest school delivery and thus the achievement of those identified outcomes, which we've got the evidence for. In my last chapter of the thesis, I drew conclusions about the importance of forest school as an intervention for a modern multicultural society, post-COVID, and in a climate emergency. Recent research describes the emotional and cognitive benefits for engaging with a natural space over time. In a post-COVID world, which is also dealing with a climate crisis, having a strong connection to nature will give forest school participants a greater sense of well-being, as well as more determination to act to preserve the planet. The need to promote pro-environmental behaviour by connecting people with nature is relevant both for their well-being and for the health of the planet. Forest school practitioners embrace a natural connection that sees humans as part of nature, not separate from it, addressing the problem of what Kahn called environmental generational amnesia. In addition, I view the purpose of education as about sustaining the individual, society and the planet, and forest school as an effective way to do that. This is closer to the worldview of indigenous cultures, who are more likely to recognise that deep interconnectedness of all life. And I won't even touch on the socio-economic pressures heading our way this winter. Lent is not alone in suggesting that focus of modern society needs to be more on GNH, gross national happiness, and less on GNP, gross national product. The World Happiness Report is produced annually by an offshoot of the UN. Consistently places the Scandinavian countries in the top 10. In 2022, Finland came top, followed by Denmark and then Iceland. And this is where the roots of forest school lie. As I continue to engage with the forest school community, I can see that the views of forest school practitioners shape and modify forest school when we meet together and share our values and ideas, which is consistent with social constructionism. So chaps,
It's up to you now. Over to you to shape the next 10 years of the Forest School Association.